March 2011. A sewer pipe beneath Paris. French police are crawling through waste tunnels, following an anonymous tip that seems too insane to be true. What they found down there would solve one of France's most audacious crimes. A heist so bizarre that when it happened 3 years earlier, witnesses didn't even realize the thieves were men. To understand why this particular store became a target, we need to talk about Harry Winston, the man they called the King of Diamonds. Winston didn't just sell jewelry, he sold legends. The Hope Diamond passed through his hands. Elizabeth Taylor's collection? Winston. Grace Kelly's engagement ring? Also Winston. By 2008, his name had become synonymous with the absolute pinnacle of luxury jewelry. The Paris boutique sat on Avenue Montaigne, a street where rent costs more per square meter than most people's annual salaries. Surrounded by Chanel, Dior, and Gucci, it was a fortress of wealth in the 8th arrondissement. But here's what made Harry Winston different from every other jewelry store on that street: their inventory. On any given day, the Paris boutique held between 80 to 120 million euros worth of jewelry, not in a vault, not in a safe, right there, on display, behind glass cases that a determined person could break with a hammer. The security? Surprisingly minimal for what they were protecting. A few cameras, standard alarm systems, and the assumption that nobody would be crazy enough to rob them in broad daylight. They were wrong. Planning a heist of this magnitude requires months of preparation. You need to know the store's layout, the staff's routines, and most importantly, you need a way to blend in long enough to execute your plan. The masterminds behind this operation understood something crucial about high-end retail. Appearance is everything. Walk into a luxury store looking like you belong, and staff will bend over backwards to help you. Look suspicious, and you'll be watched like a hawk. So they decided to become what their targets expected to see: wealthy women with expensive tastes and unlimited budgets. The transformation was meticulous. Blonde wigs, perfectly applied makeup, designer skirts, stockings, and heels. But hidden beneath their elegant exteriors were 9mm handguns, and something that would turn this robbery into a nightmare for everyone inside: a hand grenade. December 4th, 2008. Closing time was 6 p.m. The afternoon shopping rush was winding down. 15 employees were inside, completing end-of-day procedures. It was the perfect time to strike. At exactly 5:30 p.m., 3 elegantly dressed women pushed through the doors of Harry Winston. The staff, trained to provide impeccable service to every customer, greeted them warmly. For the first few minutes, everything appeared normal. The women browsed the displays, asked questions, behaved exactly like potential customers with serious money to spend. And then, in a moment that would be burned into the memories of 15 employees forever, everything changed. The guns came out first: 3 9mm pistols, pointed at staff members who had been discussing diamond cuts and precious metals just seconds before. But what happened next escalated the situation beyond a simple robbery. One of the thieves took out a hand grenade. In the confined space of the boutique, with 15 people trapped inside, that grenade became the ultimate control mechanism. Suddenly, this wasn't just about money. It was about survival. "Everyone stay calm," the lead thief commanded in French. Do exactly what we say and nobody gets hurt. What followed was 45 minutes of systematic, professional theft. These weren't desperate criminals smashing glass cases at random. They knew exactly what they were looking for. They ignored costume jewelry and focused on the most valuable pieces: rare diamonds, custom-designed necklaces, one-of-a-kind rings that had been crafted for specific wealthy clients. Each piece they selected was worth more than most people would earn in a lifetime. The employees, meanwhile, were forced to watch as millions of euros worth of inventory disappeared into designer handbags. Some later described feeling surreal, as if they were watching a movie rather than living through a real armed robbery. For 45 minutes, Avenue Montaigne continued its normal evening routine just outside the doors. Shoppers walked past, completely unaware that one of the century's largest jewelry heists was unfolding mere meters away. Finally, with their bags loaded and their objectives complete, the three thieves prepared to make their exit. But they had one final surprise for their victims. "Wait 10 minutes before calling the police," one of them instructed. "If we see any police cars before we're gone, we'll be back." The threat was clear. The hand grenade was still visible. And then, as quickly as it had begun, it was over. Three elegantly dressed women walked out of Harry Winston and vanished into the crowd on Avenue Montaigne. Behind them, they left 15 traumatized employees and empty display cases that had, just an hour earlier, held approximately 85 million euros worth of jewelry. When the police finally arrived, exactly 10 minutes after the thieves had left, just as instructed, they found a crime scene unlike anything they'd seen before. This wasn't the work of amateurs. The thieves had known exactly which pieces to target, suggesting months of surveillance and planning. They had studied the store's layout, the staff's routines, and most importantly, they had identified the most valuable and portable pieces in the entire inventory. The investigation began immediately, but the thieves had vanished without a trail. No witnesses could provide useful descriptions. After all, they had seen three women, not men in disguise.
It all happened so fast. Three elegant women, that's all I recall.
Security cameras had captured the robbery, but the disguises were so convincing that initial identification was nearly impossible. The story exploded across international media. The largest jewelry heist in French history. Cross-dressing thieves steal 85 million euros. Harry Winston robbed by men in drag. But media attention brought its own problems for the investigation. With every news report, the case became more challenging. False leads poured in. People called claiming to have seen the thieves. Others confessed to crimes they hadn't committed, seeking their 15 minutes of fame. Meanwhile, the real perpetrators had seemingly disappeared into thin air. The problem with stealing 85 million euros worth of high-end jewelry is that you can't exactly take it to your local pawn shop. These pieces were unique, documented, and immediately recognizable to anyone in the luxury jewelry trade. The thieves needed connections, sophisticated networks capable of either breaking down the jewelry into untraceable components or moving it to markets where questions wouldn't be asked. Months passed. The investigation continued, but the trail remained cold. The thieves had planned not just the heist itself, but their escape and the disposal of their stolen goods. It seemed like they had committed the perfect crime. June 2009. 7 months after the heist, Parisian police received an anonymous tip. Someone knew something about the Harry Winston robbery, and they were willing to talk. What followed was one of the largest coordinated police operations in recent Parisian history. 22 people were arrested across the Paris metropolitan area in a series of dawn raids. The breakthrough had come from within. Criminal organizations, it turns out, are terrible at keeping secrets. Someone had talked, and that conversation had reached the right ears. The investigation revealed that the heist had been far more complex than initially believed. The three cross-dressing gunmen were just the visible tip of a much larger criminal enterprise. Behind them was a network of planners who had spent months studying the store, scouts who had mapped escape routes, and specialists who could dispose of stolen high-end jewelry. But here's where the story takes an interesting turn. While police had arrested nearly 24 people connected to the crime, most of the jewelry was still missing. That changed in March 2011, when, acting on another tip, police made a discovery that seemed almost too bizarre to believe. In a sewer pipe in Seine-Saint-Denis, just north of Paris, investigators found 18 rings and 3 pairs of earrings with an estimated value of more than 13.4 million euros. The criminals had hidden part of their haul in the Paris sewer system. Think about that for a moment. Jewelry worth more than most people's lifetime earnings, sitting in a sewer pipe for 3 years. It was simultaneously a brilliant hiding place and a testament to just how difficult it is to convert stolen luxury goods into usable currency. February 2015. Nearly 7 years after the heist, 8 people were finally convicted in connection with the Harry Winston robbery. The sentences ranged from 9 months to 15 years, reflecting the various levels of involvement in the crime. The 3 gunmen received the harshest sentences, while those who had provided support received lighter punishments. But here's the sobering reality. Of the original 85 million euros worth of stolen jewelry, only a fraction was ever recovered. The majority of the Harry Winston collection, taken that December evening in 2008, has never been found. It's likely that most of the pieces were either broken down into untraceable components or moved to markets where their origins wouldn't be questioned. High-end jewelry theft is, in many ways, the perfect crime, if you can solve the problem of disposal. The Harry Winston boutique reopened after the robbery, but with significantly enhanced security measures, additional cameras, improved alarm systems, and most importantly, policies that ensure valuable inventory is secured when not being actively shown to verified customers. The case became a textbook example of both criminal audacity and the challenges of recovering stolen luxury goods. It demonstrated that even the most carefully planned crimes eventually unravel, but also that the victims, in this case, both the company and the traumatized employees, rarely recover everything they lost. Somewhere out there, perhaps in private collections or broken down into untraceable components, are millions of euros worth of jewelry that once graced the displays of Harry Winston. Diamond necklaces that were meant to be worn to galas and charity events, rings designed for proposals and anniversaries, all now part of one of France's most notorious, unsolved mysteries. The Harry Winston heist of 2008 proves that sometimes truth really is stranger than fiction. 3 men dressed as women, a hand grenade in a jewelry store, and 85 million euros worth of stolen luxury goods hidden in Parisian sewers. In the world of high-stakes crime, it doesn't get much stranger than that.